Hey everybody, we're going to shoot the USC video right now. If you don't know why I'm dressed up and you didn't watch the UCLA video, I'm at my church right now actually. This is my godbrother's classroom. So you can ignore all the palm trees and all that stuff. That's probably left up from our vacation Bible school this summer. Um, but seriously, we're going to talk about that sideshow that Kenyon Barner just ran all over the Trojans. I mean, 321 yards, and it was easy. Every time he touched the ball, he thought he was getting at least 15 or 20 yards out of it. It was embarrassing. And honestly, it's funny because I'll share a quick story. 5 years ago, I got a call from somebody at my newspaper, and they said, hey, we got a guy here named Gary Barner, and we want you to interview his son. I'm like, well, he's in Riverside. Why would I want to talk to him? They said, well, his son's got some really good numbers, and I think it'll be a great story. I said, all right, cool. So I ended up talking to Gary, and I met his son, Kenyon, and we talked, and I thought he was a great kid. He had a great story, two-sport athlete in high school, and he was going to Oregon. I was like, wow, good for him. So, he said we did the interview. I ran the story on him, and if I can find it, I'll post it up here. I don't know if I can. But I was surprised at anybody that he was having, that he'd have such a great year. I thought he was, going to have a great career. I mean, he was solid with LaMichael James, and then all of a sudden this year he gets the backfield to himself, and boom, he explodes. So big ups to Kenyon Barner. I mean, he came home and put on a show that nobody's going to ever forget. And it said a lot because I think it may have finally ripped the aura of invincibility around USC. Because I think you can look at USC and you could say they lost to Stanford. Okay, Stanford's had their number. They lost to Arizona. Arizona's got one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country. But losing to Oregon the way they did and having nobody expect them to put up a fight, and they did, I mean, even though they did put up a fight, it's still kind of bad. Because USC right now, their problems are just, their offense exploded the last 2 weeks, but they haven't been able to win because of their defense. And you seriously have to look at their defense and say, what's wrong with it? And like I said last week, USC's got a bunch of hard-hitting guys who can hit you really well, but as far as great coverman, not really. And for somebody like Monte Kiffin, he's got to get looked at a little bit more now, saying, what's up with this defense? This defense, which was supposed to be very good, which was always good under Pete Carroll, now it's given up, so many points. I mean, come on, the last 2 weeks. I mean, they gave up 60-plus to Oregon. And granted, Oregon is that good. Oregon is much, much better than they were last year, I think. But, come on. You can't give up that many points like that. So, Monte Kiffin, you're under the microscope today. You're a great defensive mind. I respected you in Tampa. I still think you're a great defensive coordinator. I just think maybe it's not a good fit. And honestly, I know some folks are going to look at Lane Kiffin, too, and say, maybe his job should be in question. But I've already spoken my mind on him. I've already said, look, Lane Kiffin is too arrogant without the mileage to back it up. He doesn't have Nick Saban's championship rings. He has all the swagger and all the attitude of somebody who wants to kind of control a program, but he's not bringing any results. And you look at the field right now. Look at what USC has right now. They're a 6-3 team that needs to beat UCLA to get into that Pac-12 championship game, because I don't think UCLA is probably going to lose another game besides, USC if they do, although I said they're going to win. But USC's got some trouble. And again, I hate to say this, but you got to look at USC and ask yourself one question. How did this happen? Are they not as good as they thought they were? Clearly their offense isn't as good. It's the defense. And Monte Kiffin made a quote to somebody this year. He said, I can't remember who it was, but he told somebody that in college, guys are going to score. You got to admit, you're not going to just shut down people. Guys are going to find ways to score. You can just limit them. Well, good luck limiting, because they just gave up, I think, over 100 points the last 2 weeks to two teams that were very explosive. Bright spot for USC, though. Freshman Nelson Aguilar had 163 yards. He looked very comfortable coming out in that game. So I think that USC definitely should use him more, because he's definitely a very, very good young wide receiver. And another one is going to be the next in line. And what can you say about Marqise Lee? I mean, 398 all-purpose yards according to the stat I found. He set a FBS record for most all-purpose yards in 2 games, and they still lost. Man, Barnes goes for almost 500 yards in 2 games, and they still lost. Now, fortunately, they're still number 21 in the MP poll, so it's not bad. But I think that they they need to find some soul searching. They need to find some. They need to go some soul searching, figure out who they are, because they got Arizona State on Saturday, and I bet you Arizona State is going to be one to come in and prove themselves after UCLA narrowly beat them. So that should be a good game. I think USC should bounce back and win that game and setting it for a great showdown in 2 weeks with the rivalry game, which I think they may be in danger of losing for the first time. But USC, you gotta answer. You got some questions, man. You gotta answer some questions. From what did Jay-Z say in Takeover? From top 10 to not even mention it all. I mean, nobody's talking about y'all right now. But the big thing they can do is they can take solace in the fact that they can rebound, they can regroup against Arizona State, and then they got a doozy because they got to get ready for UCLA, and then Notre Dame, which is probably going to be a pivotal game if Notre Dame stays undefeated. So that's all I'm going to say because I don't want to bog down with a lot of negative USC chatter, but it's not a good week to be a Trojan. I'm going to say that. Peace.